Well, it looks like the gaming industry is taking a really interesting turn today. Looks like Microsoft is firing a bunch of people, and they're all DEI related. An entire department, it seems, has been axed by Microsoft after it has been revealed by one of the leads that woke is just not in anymore. DEI is not as popular or as strong or as smart as it used to be, they say, even though in my opinion it never was smart to begin with, just really vocal. But there is a lot to break down here, and in addition to this, we're going to be talking about the Concord Beta, which this weekend I did play some of it. I played a lot of Overwatch in the past, and I felt that this was very akin to Overwatch, but in the worst ways, and this game is very obviously going to be DOA. Some people are like, maybe it's not going to be DOA when the real beta comes out or when the actual game releases, but I am telling you, from the way this game plays and from how many people played it and how little attention it's getting, despite the fact that it was a featured game on the State of Play for PlayStation, it is just not looking good for the release of this woke ESG DEI fueled video game that throws rainbows at you at the launch screen itself. So we're going to be talking about that, but let's read this story from that Park Place. And I appreciate the fact that they have consolidated so much information for me to share with you today. So report: Microsoft axes an entire DEI team, claiming DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or smart as they were in 2020. A new report claims that Microsoft has eliminated an entire diversity, equity, and inclusion team with a manager, claiming DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or smart as they were in 2020. So this was a memo that was sent out in thousands of emails by this lead, informing everybody that they were fired. So this new report comes from Business Insider's Ashley Stewart. I actually tried to go to the Business Insider article, but I do not feel like paying $1 or even $50 to read news that should be shared with us all anyway, so never mind there. Anyway, after Microsoft laid off an internal team focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, a team leader blasted the company for a lack of investment in these efforts. The email from the manager stated in part, quote, "True systems change work associated with DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or smart as they were in 2020. So they're basically saying this used to work, but since we're restructuring and budget cutting here and there and eliminating departments and redistributing employees across other departments, DEI is just not doing so well." But what does this tell me that they're firing a whole bunch of people? Well, when they say internal DEI team, all I can think of is external DEI teams. You have to remember that Microsoft did say that they were going to enforce new guidelines, and I'm pretty sure that they've been doing that for some time now, make their female characters look as androgynous and ugly as possible to defeat the male gaze, to follow DEI policies that they have. They have said many times in the past that they have a goal towards making DEI a normalized thing in video games. I don't know exactly what it means for them to fire their internal DEI team. Does that mean that they're going to start hiring externally? Does that mean they're going to hire people outside of the company in order to contract with them? There are a lot of possibilities as a result of these actions by Microsoft. But it says that the report also noted the team was eliminated because of changing business needs as of July 1st. So that's really interesting right there. Changing business needs. Maybe they don't see DEI as profitable anymore, but we have to read a little bit more. Despite the team being scrapped, Microsoft spokesman Jeff Jones did commit the company to diversity and inclusion moving forward. Quote, "Our D&I commitments remain unchanged." Sure they do. I'm sure you see no financial failure in your potential DEI future. Absolutely not. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Move along, move along. He added, "Our focus on diversity and inclusion is unwavering, and we are holding firm on our expectations, prioritizing accountability and continuing to focus on this work." So then why did they fire an entire DEI team? That seems a little bit excessive for an organization hell-bent on bringing DEI to the table. Would you fire your DEI team if you wanted to push DEI? I don't know. It depends. Is it cheaper to hire outside forces? Is it cheaper to hire consultants now? Or do you even need an internal DEI team when it is very apparent that multiple organizations and gaming studios are taking a hold of DEI and trying to wield it like a sword? This commitment was made evident when the company rolled out its Gaming for Everyone product inclusion framework earlier this year, and that is an important thing to use as a side note, because you have people internally saying Microsoft is screwed in the DEI department, but then you have other people in Microsoft, okay, the same company, saying that everything's fine and that they're still moving forward with DEI. So is there a conflict of interest? Are there people who don't have all of the information yet and they're just saying whatever they think is what's happening? Seems like not everybody is in agreement up at Microsoft, and we have multiple narratives at play here. But from their own website, it seems that their narrative narrative is still intact. This is very fascinating. The product inclusion framework is organized by 4 inclusive growth doorways to create focus and maximize impact. So it's really interesting. What does this mean? Is this really as impactful or as significant as people are suggesting? Possibly, but it doesn't change the fact that so many games have been ruined by these guidelines already and are raising so many red flags for gamers who are paying attention to the development of these games that many people are not really sure if they can take this as a win. I think more than anything, people want Microsoft and Sony to drop the DEI BS. But it seems that when these things come up, they turn out later to be not as big as they could be. So is this the actual internal DEI team, like the entire department? Or is this just a temporary thing until they develop a whole new DEI department or hire externally? So that's the question that's rolling around in my head right now. Xbox's head of gaming for everyone in sustainability, Katie Jo Wright, explained the purpose of the framework in an interview with Games Industry. If you don't intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude. That is how we are as human beings. There is no shame in that. If you want to include, you have to be intentional about that. And that is said right here at the top of their inclusion guidelines page. If we don't intentionally include, we unintentionally exclude. That's at the very top. That's their guideline framework. And that's what's mentioned here. So what in the heck is going on up at Microsoft? It goes down here to talk about some of those frameworks. Are you reinforcing any negative gender stereotypes, unnecessarily introducing gender and gender barriers, creating playable female characters that are equal in skill and ability to their male peers? You know, it's insane. We've already seen some of that in the development of these games, and that's why it is so odd that they're now eliminating an entire department committed to this stuff, committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, of course, they point out some of the amazing things that Microsoft employees have said about gamers recently. It isn't even that long ago. Kelly Lombardi, for example, when she said, "Raise your hand if you're not a white man and you buy video games," raise his hand. No hate to white dudes. It's just another day in the gaming industry that minorities have to fight to prove they exist. Some of the crazy things that Microsoft has said are just burned into people's brains. This is not exactly something that you forget. But how can you forget it when they're constantly throwing it in your faces all the time? That's why we get posts like these from Halo, with rainbow flags covering Spartan armor. That's what Halo is these days. Which is hilarious, I might add, because I can't even find matches in Halo Infinite right now. Not many people are playing it, which is a shame because I particularly enjoy the gameplay in Halo Infinite. I play with my friends mostly. I don't really play by myself unless they're there with me. But despite the amazing all-time peak it had at 256K, now it is only at 2,300, and it has been a steady number for quite some time. If you go back about 3 months, yeah, it's been on a slow decline. Even 6 months, it has not even changed that much. But at least Halo Infinite had a strong start, as opposed to another game that we're going to be talking about called Concord, which, if you have played the beta this weekend, you probably fell asleep like I did, because it's one of the most boring first-person shooters I have seen, and that is saying a lot since its competition is Destiny 2 and Overwatch 2. This is probably an example of what Microsoft is seeing on their end when they look at their numbers for DEI video games that they have spent so much money trying to push out to customers. It's not very profitable. People really just aren't interested in this. I think an LGBTQ plus game, a DEI woke game like Concord, which shamelessly admits that that's exactly what it is and even tries to show you visually that that's what it's all about, is far too niche of a video game to be effective in this industry. And the fact that it's live service and doing so poorly in the beta does not spell success for it in its near future. If you're making a live service game, you probably want a lot of players to play it. That's why when you have Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League having only a couple of hundred players every once in a while, you really cannot sustain that for more than a small period of time because you're dumping way too much money into something that you're not getting back from, which is a real bummer for live service games. Overwatch 2 has already gone down the woke route. Destiny 2, I never really truly enjoyed, but people have dumped tons and tons of money into that game. And this is the game that spawned from that. And it's really sad because I played the beta and it's really just not that fun. Some of the characters move really slow. The combat, the gunplay is all right, but it really does not stand out in an interesting way as opposed to other games. Not to mention that the story itself and the cutscene that accompanies it is really poorly written. A lot of the characters seem like they're Guardians of the Galaxy ripoffs, including Starchild, who looks exactly like Drax, but just like a red and blue Dr. Seuss version version of Drax, and it's really uninspired, unoriginal. It plays all right, but that's really it, and that's apart from all of the DEI woke stuff that are in the game. This is far too niche of a game to be popular, but it's being presented by Sony as a featured front page game. So what's going to happen when this game fails? Is PlayStation going to do the same thing where they fire their internal DEI department? Do they have an internal DEI department? That's what I am wondering. Their game, Concord, this featured state of play game that they are hoping is going to be a huge success, probably won't, has only had a peak of 300 something players. That's just not going to sustain the game. Of course, it's a closed beta, and there were only 2 ways to get into this beta. You either have to have a PlayStation Plus subscription, which is how I was able to play it, or you pre-order the game on PC, which makes no sense since PlayStation Plus users don't have to pre-order it. But yeah, if you pre-order it on PC, then you can play the closed beta. Now, the beta has ended, and they're going to have a new beta in just a couple of days. And I think at that point, we'll be able to see what kind of numbers we're going to get from this game. But considering how little attention it's gotten, even on their own X page, it only has like a couple hundred likes on some posts, and then their big pinned tweet only has like 1,000 likes, 150,000. I've seen more likes and views on some of the people who are shilling for this game rather than the game developer itself. It's just not getting the attention that they want. And people are like, well, just because the Steam charts show that very, very little people played it doesn't mean that it's not doing well on PlayStation. Well, apparently it's only reached like 1,000 concurrent players at one point. That's for a closed beta. I mean, if this is such a popular game and people really want this, and this is a good business decision, then why is it that you have Microsoft shutting down a DEI department and then players not coming to play this game? I mean, what, were there only 400 people that were interested? Were there only 1,000 people on the PlayStation side that were interested? Who is this game being marketed to? It's clearly a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff, so there's appeal to a Marvel type audience, is there not? Here's some of the footage. I just want to show you guys what this game is about, since people don't know what Concord is. Concord is an intentionally woke game. All of the characters have pronouns in their bio. I saw it myself the other day when I was checking out the gameplay, but you can see in this photo from Grums that was provided from another user, it says right there that they have he, him as pronouns, breacher, they, them, she, her, undecided as a tactician named Lark. I'm pretty sure this top left one is the robot, Anchor. He's a trash dispenser, and he's a he, him. I guess robots can have pronouns. And while the gameplay is not terrible, it's just not something to get excited for. There's nothing that really stands out that has changed from Team Fortress 2 or Overwatch 2 or anything like that. It all just seems like it's the same crap, and it's by Sony this time. Only this time around, they're spending crap tons of money on the graphics of this game and the way that the characters are animated. They've dedicated, I think, each week that this game is released to a new cutscene. So every week they're going to have a new, fully animated, fully motion captured cutscene, just dumping crap tons of money into a live service game that not enough people have played during the beta. It's just not looking good for this game in the long run. You don't have to just take my word for it, of course. The mainstream media is also following this story, even though they probably wish they didn't have to. Concord is Sony's expertly crafted big bet. It's just a few years late. That's from the Washington Post. They don't think that this game's timing is proper either. They don't think that it's going to succeed. Even if you put aside all of the DEI and woke nonsense in this game, and take a look at the gameplay, take a look at how many people are playing it, it's just not looking good. But let's take a look at the fandom wire, aka not enough players because the game is trash. Concord reportedly set for huge addition 1 day into beta. They tried to extend the beta to get more people to play, and people still did not come to play. Very fascinating. I don't know, I played this game for about 3 hours, and I just could not stand it anymore. You know, I've had my problems with Overwatch 2 in the past. I've had problems with them pushing LGBTQ+ agendas and making their more recent characters trans or just undecided pronoun-wielding weirdos. And this Drax guy right here from Concord, it's just, there's a lack of creativity, a lack of ambition, but they dump tons of money into the cutscenes because they look like really good cutscenes. It's just too bad that the dialogue is written poorly. The gameplay is really boring, especially for a few characters who move at literally a snail's pace. And the character designs look far too over the top LGBTQ and unoriginal, ripped from other TV shows or video games. And for a game that is supposed to stand out, it's just not doing a good job. So that brings us back to our original story of Microsoft firing a DEI team. Here's my question after seeing all of this. Is Microsoft going to make a further push to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion from their future slate, or is this just a temporary temporary change so that they can start hiring externally, contracting people out from Sweet Baby Inc. or Black Girl Gamers or other companies who were trying to charge people lots and lots of money for ridiculous changes that ruin their games. I'm curious about that. And will PlayStation react to this action from Microsoft as well? I'm not 100% confident because those guidelines that were pushed out by Microsoft were very recent. Whether there is internal communications on this, that has yet to be determined. And I'm also curious as to how many people were fired. That being said, be on the lookout for Microsoft either rolling back what they are trying to do here, saying that that guy who sent out an email is insane and nonsensical and he no longer works here, and hopefully we'll have a better understanding of this as time goes on. And that's all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.